Outside the rain is falling upon the window pane. Inside a voice is calling, breaking the day again. No words or conversation, I cannot speak my name. No maps or destination, tracing the way we came. We make our way, faithful to the line, waiting for the rain again. Day and with every new day dawning, in every leaf and vein, one in a million mornings, day after day the same, day after day we change. If I could tell my story about the way I came, this world in all its glory, taking a place in the chain, taking a place in the chain.
Peter Whitehead.
Yeah.
Welcome to Espresso. Peter, I think I met you 20 years ago, 2 days after I moved back to California. I saw you play in Santa Cruz. In the time I've known you, you were doing music, you were doing visual art, and building instruments. And then kind of all the things you can think of in between, pretty much. What are you working on these days?
Pretty much the same things with a few added. They tend to cycle round. What tends to happen is the music and the visual art naturally sort of take their places. They don't often go on at once.
Okay.
I don't quite understand how that works, but I tend to get very into music for a while, and painting and collage and things back off a bit. It cycles round. Sometimes I don't do either, and I do other things.
Whatever your form is, do you have a routine or a practice? You're like, okay, this is what I'm working on. I'm going to get up. I'm going to do this. I think of you as someone who's always working on something, but I wonder where it comes from.
That's a damn good question. I wish I knew. It's like a compulsion, like a drive. It's like eating or something. With music's more immediate. Like it sort of finds me rather than I go. It tends to, even when I'm not thinking about it, I start playing an instrument or something.
Like when you're at home with all your instruments.
Yeah, I don't think. Okay, today I'll get up and I'll play the guitar. It doesn't really work like that.
Race is starting.
Are we in it?
I don't. Do you still build instruments so much? Are you so?
Not as much, but I still do, and that's kind of a different thing, That's more of an experimental, creative situation where you're trying things out, and it's kind of playful. More playful than playing the guitar. There's certain ways to play the guitar that only work well. Whereas an invented instrument, you never quite know what you've got, so you have to try and work your way into it,
And I feel like that's kind of a whole world of you're in the hand-built original instruments, and then also the genre of music is what, experimental music?
Yeah,
it comes with that.
This question comes up a lot, and I've never sat down and got a really good answer to it. Like playing guitar and doing songs, as opposed to working with unusual instruments and found objects and just making sound and trying to compose music. It's a very different world, but somehow I can go to both. And they do cross over sometimes because I make songs that go with unusual instruments. It's funny though, in that world, when I'm around people who do that, it's so kind of ordinary that we all assume that everyone's doing it.
That's just your language.
Yeah, and then when you go out, people go, wow, what is that weird thing you've got there? When you're in that world, like anything you focus on, it seems very normal. Now is the time
have a trust of yourself in creating is what strikes me. What do you owe that to?
That's a really good question. There's no one ever asked me before. It's almost like you have to sort of submit to the mystery. I've been thinking a little bit lately about when I was a kid and how I used to sort of make things. I mean, no one told me to. I would just start making things. Also, I went to this really great school when I was a kid that nowadays I realise it's like progressive school, but it was just a normal school.
And where was that? That was in England?
In Oxfordshire, in England. Things like going out and drawing animals and walking along the river and planting a garden and things like that, and singing, you know. I'm sure not every kid who went to that school ended up like me, but you know, it definitely made it seem normal to be creative in everything you did, you know, and to be connected to nature and gardening and things like that. So some of that may be a factor. I really don't know because my whole family has no trace of anything like it.
Really?
Except for my grandmother who played the piano.
And your brother...
My brother's an artist too.
So you both became artists?
He's a visual artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he moved out to the States first, is that right?
He did, yeah.
And is that what inspired you to come?
Yeah, he said you would like it here. He was living in Hollywood. He said you would really like it here. I was in London. So I came out here in 1975. I've never really gone back. In those days, I thought of myself more as a visual artist. You know? I was really drawing and painting a lot, and I played guitar and I knew a lot of songs, and I was really into rock, you know, and folk and Dylan and Leonard Cohen and all that. So I was playing that, but it was always just like around the house or at a party. You know, it wasn't like I ever got on a stage and did it. So that was always sort of going on in the background of more visual art, you know. And I actually didn't really focus on music until probably the late 80s, actually.
What inspired it?
Well, there was a transition period, you know, when I was playing the guitar a lot, and I went on a trip to Asia for almost a year. And I took a little guitar with me. And at a certain point, I was in Bangkok. I was sort of fed up with the guitar. I wasn't feeling very inspired by it. So I left it in this hotel and went off travelling. And while I was travelling, I met this guy in northern Thailand, an English guy, who was running this hotel for free rent, you know. He was also from London, and he was making instruments. Very simple stuff with bamboo. And he got me into making things, and we started playing music, and I had a sort of light bulb went off that, well, this is really another world that is so interesting, and I like making things, and when I get back, and I don't have to just work with, you know, bicycle spokes and Swiss Army knife. In an actual workshop, I'll start making things. So that was an important place for me because I got very interested in other instruments, and I actually stopped playing guitar for probably almost 10 years.
Wow. And then you started composing for dance?
Yeah. I knew this dancer because I knew her boyfriend, and he'd seen some things in my studio. He was very into Balinese music, and he gave me this Balinese instrument. And then his girlfriend said, "Oh, I'm doing this little duet. Do you want to do some music for it with my boyfriend?" So we decided it would all be homemade.
Oh, wow.
And that was the first thing I ever did, and I was terrified and nervous.
You did it live?
Yeah. It was at the lab, actually. The old lab. I really hadn't performed much before that in that kind of context. It was nerve-wracking, you know. But then people liked it, so it made me feel like it might be worth doing again, you know. So then that sort of grew from there, just meeting people.
Getting asked to do more.
In the magazine too, there was a lot that came through the magazine, just people got to know each other.
Do you like composing
I
for dance?
actually don't get asked to do it much anymore. I think I was much more in the dance world in the 90s and early 2000s. I was much more involved in it because I was often in the show, you know. I would sing live or be on the stage playing with other people. I think some of my favourite stuff I did was actually with Contraband and Sarah Shelton Man.
Is she still making work?
She's still making
Yeah.
work, yeah. I like that because it was more collaborative.
But what precipitated the move to New York? Just that was the next place to go, the Big
I had
Apple?
a girlfriend there
Oh, okay.
who had been coming back and forth for 3 years. And I was going there and staying for a month, and she was coming here. And I kept thinking about moving, and then Susan Marshall offered me this project. And she offered me some pretty good money, and it's a year-long sort of development and all that. So I felt like, oh, I've got a job, and I've got this girlfriend there, so it's a good time to go. So and I did that project, and I got more projects.
How did that feel working there as opposed to San Francisco?
People are a lot more business-like there, in a good way as well as a bad way. They're more like, they would send the car to pick you up. A guy to carry your instruments.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and you don't have to do anything. They'll just set up everything for you. And if you need this, that was great, And they paid well, much better than the Bay Area. And great venues. The downside of New York was that people are very businesslike, and I was used to people hanging out after rehearsal and going to a cafe or something.
Right.
And it was like everybody would just go home. It was a very different way of working to me. Felt a bit more disconnected, but it was like a job,
Yeah.
So after a while, I realised, oh, this is more like a job. I should just go and do what I do and then go home.
Right.
But actually, that changed a little as I got to know some of the dancers. We did a mini tour, and we got a little more friendly there. But I think everybody there is very busy, so they don't have time to hang around.
Right.
Which is good in its own way. It means people are serious about what they do,
Right.
which I like. The thing I learned there was to be much more professional. You can't have excuses why something's not working. Or,
Right.
you can't turn up late or not know how this works or something.
And then, was it a hard decision to come back, or was it?
Yeah, it went on for like a year.
Oh, really?
Because I felt like I didn't really have any community there.
Yeah.
And apart from I had 2 really good friends there, but the rest of it was rather sort of disconnected. And I'd had many years in California, and a whole sort of circle. My brother's here.
Community. And also, just even Studio Valencia, it's a live-work space. It's a whole different vibe.
Yeah.
Because even if you're not necessarily best buddies, you've got people coming up and doing things all the time.
Well, no, friendships are about history, Some of my friends here I'd known for 20, 25 years, Brother, obviously, I've known since I was born. So there were things that you can't just instantly recreate,
Right.
And I think that was what was happening in New York. It was like, I've known people there for a year. I don't really know them that well, and I really like them, but I was really missing that connection. I was the room, you were the candle, you were the handle, and I was the door. You were the flower, I was the camera, you were the dancer, and I was the floor. I played the game, but the rules kept on changing, full of surprises, different each time. I played to win, you threw your hand in there too many years, and gambled away. I passed the test, you raised the standard, changed all the questions, so I always failed. So I met you halfway when we were both stranded, out on an ocean, no wind in our sails. Ah, but you were the princess, you were the scandal that slipped from the headlines in just a few days. Too busy to notice, reading your fan mail, you never made it past the front page. Strings were attached
but they were invisible. You looked for a savior to take you away. And though I said from the start I couldn't work miracles, I walked on the water and sank anyway. Wait for your sentence, wait for your word, wait for your message, but nothing's heard. Wait for your orders again and again, wait for your letter, but it never came. I played guitar, you plucked your eyebrows, I dropped the keys so we sang out a tune. I dropped the ball, you threw a tantrum, we took the train to the end of the line. I made my last call to the place you were stranded, but the doors were all locked, the roof was on fire, and the ashes had cleared. I undid the bandage, but all that was left was burning desire. And I waited so long for a place at the table. When I got there, there was only one chair. We tasted the cake, blew out the candles. When I looked round, there was nobody there. You juggled time, I walked the tightrope, carefully treading each step of the way. Now I am the sun, and you are a shadow, and the clowns and the elephants have all gone away. Yes, I was the room, you were the candle, you were the handle, and I was the door. You were the flower, I was the camera, you were the dancer, and I was the floor. I was the vandal, you were the Lord. I think when you're in the world of performing, you meet a lot of people. And
Yeah.
I always think of shows, like dance shows and things like that, as it's kind of an ordeal in a way.
that you go through together, you know.
I do. It is kind of. It is like a trial by fire. You got to do
It's
it.
hard
Things
work,
happen.
and it's, you know, the last night everybody's really on edge and things go wrong, and you know, but you come through it together, and everybody. That's why you have a big party afterwards. Everyone's so relieved, you know.
So you came back. Was it hard to re-enter? Even when you're only gone a couple of years, things are changing in that time.
It was a little hard in that I was very disconnected. A lot of people didn't think I lived here anymore, so I wasn't getting a lot of offers to do things. I think that's when things changed as far as dance companies and that. People got used to me not being here.
Right.
I did a lot of films too for a while.
Right. Who was the famous one? What was his
Matt
name?
Dillon
Right.
did a film called City of Ghosts. The other fairly well known was Following Sean, it was called, by Ralph Arlick. Those are the most seen of those. I did a lot of small indie films that got seen by way less people. I still get royalties from the Matt Dillon films, so
that's
it's still
great.
being shown all over the world.
Right. That's awesome.
I did one piece
Oh, okay.
that got used at the beginning and end.
That's significant.
It's significant because they pay you more for how long it is. So,
Right.
so if you do the theme music, you get paid more.
So the movie scoring there, did you seek that out, or did it kind of come?
It came from actually people seeing me do dance, and they say, "I'm making this indie film. I'd really like you to do something." You know?
Right.
And then it's the same thing. Someone sees that film and they say, "Oh, could you do something for my film?" There's a lot of very small films. They got shown on PBS. Some of them.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's less ephemeral than dance.
Yeah.
Because dance, maybe someone filmed it, and
like
or
film.
they were there. And you have the soundtrack to some things, I know.
Yeah. Well, I like film because I really like working in the studio and recording, and you know, to sit down with a visual element and work with it. I really like doing that because it gives you a framework. It gives you a time, first of all, and it gives you like events and mood, you know. And so, you know, just to sit down and make a piece of music is different to, okay, it's got to fit this scene in this film.
When you write songs, what is your approach?
Mostly they are written with no plan or anything. Susan Marshall was a good example because she'd say, "We need a song right here," and I want it to be like, and she'd play me something, like, you know, some well-known pop group or something, and say, "Can I have this mood, you know, and I really like the way it does this, but don't make it sound like that song." And actually that was really helpful because it gives you a whole framework, you know. It was a good way of working as far as, you know, if it was a job.
Right.
To be able to make a song like that. And she always liked what I did, so it worked out. And there was times when she'd say, "Oh, just play anything here," and I'd play like a Leonard Cohen song, and she'd say, "That's great, can you write a song like that?"
Leonard Cohen, someone you've listened to since you were in England, perhaps?
17, I first heard him.
How did your involvement in the Conspiracy of Beards happen? I feel like you knew the person whose idea it was. Is that correct?
The person whose idea it was died.
Right.
Actually. His name was Peter Caddick.
Great Blue Heron. Peter's Caddick's going by in the form of a wise bird.
On the anniversary of his death, he died very young of AIDS. And, he was a dancer, actually.
Okay.
One of the companies. His widow had looked through his diaries and discovered that he proposed this group that sang Leonard Cohen songs, a men's choir, and he named some of the people in it.
You were named?
I don't think I was actually named, but I was a pretty good friend of his. I mean, not in his really close circle, but his wife asked Darryl, who is the director, to put together a group, and he asked me. And it was only a small, like, I think it was like 5 people the first time we got together, then it grew to 11. So that's how it came about, and we did supposedly, you know, a one-night thing.
Right. When was that? How long ago was that?
2003.
Okay, yeah.
And it was never thought of as anything that's going to go anywhere.
And it had an immediate response.
Yeah, someone saw it, and I think our second show was actually at City Lights.
I might have been there. I went to that show at City Lights,
yeah.
There was a buzz about Conspiracy of Beards right away.
Yeah, it was very odd. It's you know, most groups you join, it's really hard to keep them together.
Right.
Constantly breaking up. This was the opposite. Every time I went, there was a new guy. You know? And he really wanted to be there, you know.
And this is a cappella Leonard Cohen.
A cappella and a Cohen. We're up to like 30 people.
Is Daryl
Henline.
Daryl Henline's the
Yeah.
director, okay.
Without Daryl, there wouldn't really be no choir, actually, is the truth of it.
Do you have to audition to be a beard? How does it work?
The way it's usually worked is every year some guys leave and then some new guys turn up. There used to be no requirements for being able to sing. That might sound strange.
But that's changed.
Well, what's changed is that a lot of the guys who've joined are really good singers and have experience and can read music.
Uh-huh.
And also there's a lot of songs. We have
Right.
over 25 songs now. Maybe close to 30 actually. So to join now, you can't just kind of wing it like I did when I joined it.
Uh-huh.
Because I can't read music. That's why there's less new guys every year. And,
Right. It's a higher caliber of entry.
just people who can actually read and have some experience of singing.
Yeah. And you've done big gigs with the Conspiracy Beard. Didn't you open for Leonard Cohen? Did he?
No. We played in the lobby
Okay.
while he was playing in the main theatre.
If you're singing someone's catalog that much,
Yeah.
and you've already were a fan, how do you feel that affects your writing now?
I don't think in any way whatsoever, actually.
Really?
It's affected my singing. I think I've got to be a better singer
Uh-huh.
for singing in that choir. I sometimes listen to old records and I cringe a bit at how I wouldn't really get to where I would try and get now, you know.
Right.
Vocals.
Or where you can even just get now without even...
Or it'd be a bit out of tune, a little unconvincing, you know. I mean, you're always trying to improve.
Right. So when you're writing a song,
Mhm.
how do you approach a song? Do you get a line? Do you get up and go, I'm just going to write a song and see what happens? Are you a first thought, best thought?
I actually don't think, I'm going to write a song usually. So I hear this asked of all kinds of people over and over again, and they always kind of say the same thing, that there's no sort of formula, they're all different, you know. There's some come very quickly, and you know what it's going to be before you start, even though, you don't know the details. They're all very different. Some take months of just evolving. For me, from just playing the guitar and getting like a musical thing going, and then liking it enough to start putting words to it, you know. Some songs start with just a line. There was a song I played the last time we did this. The line I had was, "You were the flower, I was the camera," which is about someone I knew, and from that line, that set kind of the approach, you know. And the whole song came out of that. And once you get verse, it's easier to get the other verses, as you know. You can write endless verses. Like Leonard Cohen wrote only 20 verses for Hallelujah or something.
Oh my goodness.
So there's those versions, and then there's songs that labour, you know. Like you kind of trying to get to it, and it's not. And then there's a method I use in a couple of situations, especially with dancers, where they would just give me like random phrases. You know? It's like a surrealist approach where you had all these sort of ingredients, and then you had to like arrange them into something. And they're often very abstract, but after a while you start to realise that they start to make sense. You know, because you want to see meaning in things. So there's a few songs like that have been very abstract and more like poetry than anything. And well, you get the idea. Questions and promises, yesterday's claims, left on the floor again. Trading our places and chasing the train. Yesterday falls again. Oh, now you know the sky's not full. You can chase the rain. Oh, now you hear the sirens calling. You can brave the waves. You can brave the waves.
can brave the waves, or you can brave the
You've had the art opening, the paintings.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've also had the collage book.
Collage book, yeah.
And then you have things that I haven't been to. I missed the Treasure Island book party.
Oh, yeah.
So there's many things. The collage is a daily thing you do, right? Pretty much?
It's not daily, but sometimes it is. I'm on a bit of a gap now. I haven't done it for weeks. You can't sort of force it.
Was it kind of like songs? You get a line, you get a piece, you get a scrap that's like, oh.
And then there's periods where I'm in there every day for hours,
Right.
like till 1 in the morning, and then other periods where I go in there and I just don't feel connected to it, you know.
Yeah.
That's what's going on right now, actually, where we just have to kind of let it be, you know.
Were you always so trusting of your process?
The books actually taught me that.
Which
The
books?
books taught me to trust everything you do is going to work out.
Oh, interesting.
If you stick with it long enough.
Right.
If you abandon it, it probably won't work out. The books, the process there often is just stick anything in randomly without thinking, and then come back and look at it, reconsider, and then, you know, often I go in there to like find a tool or something to do something, and I look at the book and I think, oh, that needs something right there.
If you look back at your art life, do you see any pivotal people that you met? But as far as just like your kind of approach to art making?
My brother was a big influence because he knew he was a professional artist when he was like 18.
Okay.
And he's done that his whole life. And to have someone in my family like that as an example, you know, when I was in my late teens, he was out and he was getting paid to do it.
Right.
It was a job, you know, and he's done it ever since. So he made it into a possibility. And I think without him, I would not have got through that barrier of that period between college and
Right.
being out in the world, you know.
Right.
I saw him doing it, and he knew a lot of interesting people too, and seemed to have an interesting life, you know. So the idea of getting a job didn't seem very interesting to me.
A minute each day, don't wait, goes away so fast. A second each minute has so much in it, in the close enough. An avocado, a potato, a good glass of red, a stone floor, an open door, something firm bed. Enough. Take the dirt road, go look at the stars. Water in the cloud, oh here we are. Enough. The sound of the door is so familiar, creak and whine. The wind blowing in the warm sun's skin feels so fine. Enough. Take a turn, don't let distrust. We've come so far, now here we are. Enough.
Peter Whitehead, thanks so much for joining us. That was great.
It's been a very nice day out.
Deborah, thank you for your interview skills.
Kwame, Captain.
We love the Bay!